Well, Evansville, Indiana, an incredible, beautiful city. It's got really two sides to it. It's got an east side and it's got a west side. God's called us to go specifically to the west side of Evansville. It's kind of like a blue-collared area. If you've ever seen the TV show called Friday Night Lights, it's kind of like that. There's the TV show is basically this football team. Whenever they have a game, the whole community follows and supports it. It's a very middle America type of feel to it. It's a great area. In Evansville, Indiana itself, it has roughly about 15,000 people. There's a smaller city of about 8,000, and between the west side of Evansville and this area called Mount Vernon, there's a corridor between the two, and God has called us to plant a church, or to start a church between this area in Evansville. The city sooner or later will be coming together, and what a better place is to have a church right there at the edge of the city. There's also a university right there, probably about 2 or 3 miles away from where we want to start this church. It's called USI. It has about 10,000 students. I want to tell you a story about this. In December, I was driving up, looking around the community, trying to get to know the community a little bit better. I decided to drive onto the campus of USI. I drove on, and there's this kind of fountain area where you can make a U-turn around and to go ahead and if you make a mistake coming in, you can just U-turn your way out instead of having to go around the entire campus. I decided to check out the campus. I'd never seen it before, so I drove into the campus and I started to drive past this fountain around the back of the building. And honestly, and it gives me goosebumps every time I still think about it, honestly, I was driving in this area, and all I can say is there was some sort of a feeling, if you want to say demonic feeling of saying, get out of here. And as you and I know, God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. So I know it was not from God. I knew that the devil and his demons and his evil forces were saying, David, you need to get out. This is our area. I drove around and kind of scared a little bit. I drove past this fountain. As soon as I passed this fountain and headed out to the highway, that feeling dissipated. And I stopped my car and I just started to pray and pray and pray. And I said, God, if you're calling me to this area here in Evansville, this university of 10,000 students needs to know about you. Also, in this area of Evansville, statistically speaking, 16% of people in this area during the last census say that they attend church. They just say they attend church, whether that's an Easter Christmas person or whatever that might be. But 80% of that 16% are people who are Roman Catholic. So that leaves roughly about 4% that are evangelical believers. The need for a church up there who can relate to the de-churched, the unchurched, and the disillusioned generation of church is desperately needed. And then in the next video, I'm going to share with you about the vision of this church and how it's going to look and act and relate to the people of Evansville. There's really not a larger contemporary church in the area. There's probably about one that's doing a pretty decent job, but there needs to be another contemporary style church, and I'll talk to you about the vision a little bit. I want to leave you with this story. Probably about 2 weeks ago, I called up to a dance studio in Evansville, trying to find out to see if there's a place that we can rent so that we can actually get in and have a worship service. I talked to this young lady, and after our conversation, I just felt led to go and ask her some questions, personal questions. And my first question was, ma'am, how old are you? And she said, well, I'm 20 years old, and I go to the university up the street, USI. And I said, well, do you mind me sharing a couple minutes about why I'm leaving Florida to come up to Indiana? And it seemed she kind of almost giggled because she's like, "You're leaving Florida to come up here? Are you crazy?" So she gave me a couple minutes to share the vision of the church, which in the next video I'll share with you. After sharing the vision of the church, she made a kind of dramatic pause, and I thought I messed up. I thought I said something that offended her. But then she came back and she said, "Sir, there's not a church like that here. My church is boring, judgmental, and hypocritical, and I don't get anything of it or from it. Sir, may I give you my phone number so when you come up here, you can give me a call." God is already working. He's called us. We've got a city and a place. Now I want to share with you the vision of what this church is going to look like. Thank you for your time, and go ahead and check out the next video.